hidden centers of the Western world. Here, architecture, ideas, arts and sciences blossomed. As did commerce. Here, building after glorious building expressed each city's pride and power. Here, people of all nations and cultures gathered, drawn by the opportunities they hoped to find in a great metropolis. Alexandria, fabled city of the ancient world, brainchild of its founder, the Greek general Alexander the Great. Having liberated Egypt from the Persians, Alexander commissioned a royal city on the western shore of the Nile Delta. Over 300 years before the birth of Christ, Alexander's architects drafted plans for a metropolis that would reflect the glory of its founder. Construction began in 332 BC. As it grew, the city became an important center of Greek culture and learning. Its library and school of medicine were especially famous, attracting scholars and students from around the globe. Today, more than 4 million people live in what is now Egypt's second largest city. This modern metropolis has buried ancient Alexandria under concrete and asphalt. But deep in the bowels of the city, or under the burning desert sand, Alexandria's mysterious past continues to surface, while questions still remain. What stores of knowledge were housed in Alexandria's legendary library? Where exactly was the Pharaohs lighthouse located, one of the 7 wonders of the world? What was life like for those who came here seeking to change their fate? We know a little about one young woman. The details are sketchy, but her name was Agnodike. For over 10 years now, French archaeologist Jean-Yves Empereur has studied Alexandria's beginnings. The director of the Centre d'études alexandrines, he is amazed by the vast scale of this ancient city.
The streets are wider than in any other city. The Via Canopica, the Canonic Way, was more than 30 meters wide. And so it's incredible size for if you compare with the ancient cities like Athens or Corinth. It's like New York compared to Paris or London, you know? And even they had the skyscraper, like the lighthouse. So the Greek who came from the old trees, from the islands, were very much impressed when they came to the city.
Visible from a distance of 67 kilometers, the shining marble facade of the Pharaohs lighthouse towered over the horizon, an unforgettable landmark and symbol of the might of Alexandria. Based on plans by the Greek architect Sostratos, construction on the lighthouse began in 299 BC. 20 years later, the huge tower, 140 meters high, is almost finished. A beacon of hope for all who arrive in Alexandria. Agnodike is one of them. Fragments of her story have survived thanks to the Roman scholar Hyginus. But of the lighthouse, which must have welcomed her to Alexandria, almost nothing remains. To this day, even its exact location has never been confirmed. Though there are many indications that this is where it stood. Today, a 15th century citadel dominates the entrance to the harbor, Fort Quake Bay. Renovations on this Arab fort have just recently begun and offer a rare opportunity to probe the secrets behind the fort's history. Is it possible the ruins of the lighthouse were used to help build the fort?
Early in the 20th century, a German engineer undertook a major study of the citadel. Based on his study of Arab authors, he claimed that the base of the Pharaohs had been incorporated into the citadel, more precisely into its main tower. However, this can only be examined by excavation, and we are now in the process of probing various spots around the tower. That means we are looking down at the rock through little windows to see if we can find the remains of foundations anywhere. We are searching for any traces hinting at the existence of the lighthouse.
Catherine Machinec is an architect on Dr. Empereur's team. Under the fort lies a giant water reservoir built so that soldiers could survive lengthy sieges. It's like a museum of architectural history down here. Ornamental Corinthian molding, bits of ancient pillars. Could fragments from the lighthouse be mixed in among these?
The site of Kaibe is a mixed site of architectural pieces belonging to the lighthouse itself. We could, for instance, reconstruct a very huge door, more than 12 or up to 13 meters from the lintel to the soil, with very nice jambs and lintel of granite from Aswan. We have some colossal statues which stood in this place because we have found them parallels one to the other just in front of their bases. So there are very big statues of the kings, Ptolemies and their queens, which were standing during antiquity at the foot of the lighthouse.
The Ptolemaic dynasty began in Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. Under its rule, Greek culture flourished in Alexandria, spreading its light throughout the ancient world. Much as the lighthouse they built illuminated the coast, welcoming the best and brightest to the city. One of those who came especially to work on the lighthouse was the Greek engineer Crates, the uncle of Agnodike. His niece has followed him here from Athens, a long and difficult journey for a young woman. She doesn't tell him her real reason for coming, that she's here to fulfill a dream. But to do so, Agnodike must enter dangerous, uncharted waters. The first traces of Alexandria can be found in the middle of the sea on a small island now known as Nelson Island. After years battling the authorities, archaeologist Paolo Gallo has become the first scientist permitted to excavate this barren place in a secured military zone. He hopes to find important information about Alexandria's origins here. And so far, he's not been disappointed.
The most striking feature of what we found, it is that we found the only levels which are intact belonging to this period. I mean, in Alexandria itself, it is very difficult to find periods of the first Ptolemaic age in which all the things are still in situ. So there we found all the pottery and all the things that were abandoned at once.
The island seems to have been abandoned shortly after Alexandria was founded, and since then has never been settled. Just below ground level, the foundations of a larger building were found. Could this have been a lighthouse, a temple, or like the present one, a military installation? Quite by accident, archaeologists stumbled across the entrance to an underground cave set into the steep cliffs. It appears that English sailors sought shelter here in the 17th century.
Here is written, Herod Lux, 1658, and this is his portrait.
Possibly one of the many pirates who hid out here over the years. While fighting Napoleon, Admiral Nelson had a base on the island, hence its name. But long before all that, the soldiers of Alexander the Great left traces of their stay on the island.
This military garrison was occupied only during a short period, during about almost between 30 and 40 years, no more. So after this was completely abandoned. So we can understand from this that was abandoned because the strategical interest of the islet and of Canopus itself and the harbor of Canopus was lost because the new harbor, that of Alexandria, was already working.
The island may also have served as a kind of planning office for the city pushing skyward on the mainland. For there is no doubt a great deal of thought went into Alexandria's construction. Just how complex some of the engineering feats were came to light during recent excavations. Archaeologists from the Centre d'études Alexandrines have become specialists in last-minute rescue digs on excavation sites, because whenever any access to ancient Alexandria is discovered, a race against time begins. Many promising sites are filled in again almost at once by building contractors. For them, every day of archaeological excavation means a loss of income. Yet, unearthing Alexandria's layered past takes time. Francis Joël.
Generally, in the city of Alexandria, to get to the layers of the Greek era, one has to dig 12 meters down. To find that level, one has to go through the medieval, the Arab, and then the Roman era before reaching the Ptolemaic layers. We will dig through all these strata down to the natural rock.
This area near the ancient palace district has been inhabited since the city was founded, making a clear demarcation of each era difficult. Yet, archaeologists have made discoveries here which testify to the far-sightedness of city planners. Cisterns and water pipes in particular show how Greek engineers figured out how to deliver water to a city without its own natural supply of drinking water. They began by laying down a network of prefabricated clay pipes for the new metropolis. As in modern water systems, these ancient pipe sections with their cone-shaped ends fitted neatly into each other and were mass-produced. Tens of thousands of them were laid underground before construction on the streets began. The whole infrastructure, the layout of roads and paths, the positioning of buildings must all have been determined in detail from the start, a masterwork of planning. Water from the Nile and from natural reservoirs in areas around the city flowed through canals to supply this ingenious network of pipes. Kilometers inland lies the region of Fayum, which long ago served as the granary of Alexandria. In this fertile region, time seems to stand still. Here, the ancient form of irrigation, as simple as it is ingenious, has been preserved. Powered by the water itself, the wheel scoops up the precious liquid into hollow cavities and empties it into canals through which it continues to flow.
Brought to you by IBM. On-demand business is here. Closed captioning on History Television is brought to you by Tim Hortons Roll Up the Rim to Win. With 30 GMC Canyons and millions of other prizes available, you can't leave a cup unrolled.
Shortly after its founding in 332 BC, the city's population had soared to 500,000 inhabitants. But the city's architects had factored future growth into their plans, even designing a road system with streets intersecting at right angles, capable of accommodating a high volume of traffic. The two main traffic arteries of modern Alexandria date from the city's foundation, their dimensions unchanged for over 2,000 years. Magnificent palaces and temples once lined these avenues. But how did ordinary people live? Grzegorz Majcierek from the University of Warsaw has managed to excavate the remains of houses dating from the city's beginnings.
Each owner was allotted the same lot of land, roughly 25 by 25 meters, to build his house on it. And we think that this system that goes back to the time of Alexander the Great was retained at least for 4 centuries in Alexandria.
Well-to-do families took up more space, normally about 600 square meters. This was a spacious city house surrounded by garden and stables. With its lovely Greek mosaics, this is a rare find. But even rarer are objects once used in daily life. The city's Greco-Roman museum houses the few remaining artifacts from that time. Among them, the precious Tanagra figures found in the graves of young women. Most likely, they were important throughout a girl's life, acting as companion and plaything, but also as lucky talisman. No doubt Aphrodite would have brought hers on her journey to Alexandria, but she'll need more than good luck to fulfill her dream. She's come to this city, which in her day was the center of learning, to study to be a doctor. Even in sophisticated Alexandria, this idea is unheard of for a woman. But Aphrodite has a secret plan. Throughout Alexander's time, as well as that of the Ptolemies which followed, Greek culture reigned supreme in Alexandria. Egyptian women adopted Greek fashions in the way they wore their hair and in dress, as this figure reveals. But Greek women were expected to confine their interests to their home, whereas Egypt, under the Ptolemies, boasted some powerful female rulers, including Cleopatra. Alexandria was an open-minded city, a fact that would play in Agnodike's favor.
You could find all the races of the people of the world. All the languages were spoken in Alexandria, and even in the library you could find papyri books, between brackets, written in any language of the world and translated from Egyptian to Greek, from Aramean, Hebrew to Greek, and so on. So it was the melting pot of antiquity.
The melting pot was also a thriving center of production. Having to live so close together led to a natural division of labor and to specialization. People sold their goods on the street, where they also bought their food. The only meal ordinary people usually ate at home was the evening meal. Breakfast generally consisted of bread dipped in wine. The harbor where today's fishermen bring their catch is the same harbor where slaves unloaded ancient trading vessels thousands of years ago. Goods from all over the Mediterranean came and went here through Egypt's gateway to the world. But with time, memory of the city's status and open-mindedness faded. By the 19th century, it was almost forgotten. Until one day, a worker hauling goods with his horse and cart made a sensational discovery. A discovery which brought to light fascinating facts about life in this Greek settlement on Egyptian soil. On an ordinary day in the early 1800s, the worker harnessed his horse at dawn, as usual, and set out to offer his services on the busy streets. In one of the narrow lanes, the road suddenly gave way under his cart, exposing the entrance to a long-forgotten world. The world of the dead, the catacombs of Kom el Chokafa. 20 meters below the lively city lies a silent one, an extensive network of caves carved out of the rock. Here, the people of Alexandria buried their dead. Egyptian gods and Greek vine leaves adorned this sarcophagus, symbol of the peaceful coexistence between Greek settlers and native Egyptians. The man responsible for fostering this harmony was General Ptolemy, close friend and successor to Alexander the Great. He gave his name to the dynasty which succeeded him, the last of whom was the legendary Cleopatra. The Ptolemies opened wide the doors of learning, and scholars of all nations flocked to their libraries. Agnodike longs to be one of those scholars, but fears she'll be rejected outright if she applies as a woman. And so she puts her daring plan into action. Her role as a man has begun. Her uncle Crates does his best to change her mind. Agnodike knows she's playing a dangerous game, but she's determined to gain access to the stores of knowledge so close at hand.
You are watching Ancient History Tuesdays on History Television. On History Television.
The great libraries and schools in Alexandria were financed by the fabulous wealth of the Ptolemies, who regarded knowledge as a source of power. For Dr. Empereur, the Temple of Taposiris represents an impressive example of the might of the Ptolemaic period. Taposiris lies some distance to the west of Alexandria, indicating how far the power of the Ptolemies extended. The countryside was heavily populated. The temple was encircled by its own town, with its own well-developed infrastructure. Nearby were an extensive residential area and artisans' workshops, which produced all kinds of goods. Even today, pieces of broken amphoras litter ancient rubbish heaps, such as this one dating from Roman times.
So this is only a very small part of the big dam, and you can see there are some bottom of amphoras, and it's pointed to stand in the sand, to stand in the kiln, to stand in the ships where they were transported to exportation. This handle, double handle, you see, a very strong one, with the fingerprint of the pottery maker. You can see it when he did it. So thousands of amphoras made by many people who participated to this production, mass production for mass exportation to Alexandria and to the rest of the Mediterranean.
An ancient mass production site would probably have looked much like this one. Here, in a remote inland river valley, thousands of amphoras are still being produced today. The technique hasn't changed. Today, just as yesterday, people still fetch their raw material from the nearby river. It's hard to imagine daily life here without amphoras. They're still used to transport food from place to place, as well as keep it cool. Just as in the workshops around ancient Alexandria, there are no machines here. Everything is made entirely by hand. An accidental discovery revealed how so many clay vessels could be produced at one time. These are the remains of a huge kiln blown up in an explosion and hidden until recently under a mountain of shards. These same kinds of kilns are still used today in the hinterlands of Alexandria. Once a week, all the pottery produced within the last few days is fired. Light, cheap, malleable, and beautiful, clay still fulfills many needs. All through the night, as they did long ago, men kept the flames alive. continuing a system of mass production which fueled the growth of great cities thousands of years ago. Agnodike is now ready to face the world as a man. But will her disguise work?
Now, when you stay at Ramada, Canada, you'll earn points to
Division.
The Library of Alexandria, largest and most famous of the ancient world, and the goal of Agnodike's dreams. Here, some of the best minds of her time teach and research. Names to conjure with Archimedes, Euclid, and head librarian Eratosthenes, who postulated that the Earth rotates around the sun. Scholars from around the world are welcomed here. This vast collection of over 500,000 manuscripts were made available to them. The Ptolemies followed some unusual procedures in their pursuit of knowledge. Every ship arriving in Alexandria had to hand over all written materials on board. They received copies in return. The library kept the originals. To Agnodike, this place would have seemed like paradise. How could anyone have known then that not a single scroll would survive? Around 641 AD, the library went up in flames. But not everything is lost. Papyrus scrolls from the Ptolemaic period have survived here in Tunis, on the edge of the desert. For 20 years now, a French-Italian team has been excavating what remains of a Ptolemaic city. Unlike Alexandria, where ancient remains lie buried under layers of city buildings, the ruins here are concealed just under the desert sand. But ruins are not the most exciting discovery in Tunis. The bone-dry desert air has preserved thousands of documents dating from the days of Alexandria's founding. It's a treasure trove for papyrus expert Professor Galazzi, director of the excavation.
The papyrus was used in Old Egypt and also in Greece and in Europe. But in Greece and in Europe, it's impossible to find papyri. As it's impossible to find papyri in Alexandria, because the humidity destroyed all this kind of material. In this small village, the sand, the desert, preserve all. For that, Tunis is one of the rare places of the Egypt where it is possible yet now to find papyri, and my mission find about 3,000 papyri.
The discoveries made here hint at the wealth of information Alexandria's great library must have held. These documents, although more prosaic, give us a unique insight into how everyday life functioned in ancient times.
All the papyri give us a view of daily life. We have the receipt of the taxes that allows to know the name of the owner of the building. We have the account of the food bought by the family. Sometimes we have official acts of burn or dead, of marriage. We have a contract. So if you join all these texts, all this information, you can really have exact view of the life in this village 2,000 years ago.
To ensure their preservation once they've been found, the fragile papyri need to be treated on site. After centuries hidden in the sand, their secrets are deciphered by scientists. The texts are written both in Greek and in Demotic, the colloquial language of ancient Egypt. Papyrus was mass-produced in those days, much like today's writing paper.
It was necessary to join together the sheets of papyrus and to form a roll of papyrus. Normally, a roll of 20 sheets. It was long about 3 meters, 20 centimeters. And when some person needed to use a small part of the papyrus, cut a part of the roll and use.
Most of the Teptunis papyri record fairly humdrum procedures, sales contracts, income tax receipts, or leasing agreements. Unlike the library in Alexandria, which housed some of the greatest scholarly texts of the time on everything from astronomy to mathematics to history, including pioneering medical treatises, which would have been extremely attractive to someone like Agnodike. But the library also guards certain secrets intended for the eyes of only a select few. As Agnodike would have been well aware, the famous Greek physician Herophilus is based in Alexandria. Known as the father of human anatomy, he's also rumored to use unorthodox teaching and research methods. Summoning her courage, Agnodike attaches herself to his group of students. Herophilus was the first to discover that thinking and feeling took place in the brain, and that blood circulated through the body. Much of his insight has been gleaned from human cadavers. But even in the city of knowledge, such a practice is strictly taboo. To cut open the body of a dead person, instead of burying it with the respect it deserves, goes against the will of the gods.
Proseguite.
Suddenly, all Agnodike's hopes seem to hang in the balance. If her real identity is discovered, she risks public humiliation and disgrace. And the end of a dream before it's even begun.
Next week, the Inca used the stars to foretell their fate. Then, Carthage, the ancient Mediterranean center of trade. Next week on Ancient History Tuesday on History Television.
You may not always like Canada's weather, but you have to drive through it. That's why we designed the Canadian-built Ford Freestar with the Canadian driving package. You get advanced track for stability control, all-speed traction control for better grip, a reverse sensing system, and brake assist. Whatever the weather, bring it on. the all-new Ford Freestar with the exclusive Canadian
History Television, an Alliance Atlantis network. Brought to you by IBM. On-demand business is here. Are you ready? IBM can help.
The fragility of life and its ability to endure is a paradox facing most archaeologists. These shards, for example, bring a long-dead past back to life.
This is information concerning a priest meeting with the date, the name of the person invited in the meeting, and the information that the member of the association and the person that was invited in the meeting drink some beer.
Over the years, the look and feel of the city have constantly changed. After the Greeks came the Romans, then the Arabs. Once Egypt's capital, Alexandria was replaced by Cairo in the 10th century AD. Today, it's a lively Mediterranean city with a past that continues to surface. Once again, Dr. Empereur's team has had to rush to the rescue of that past. A shopping mall is going up here, but during the night, the developer, worried about time and money, sealed off half the excavation site with a concrete floor, breaking all previous agreements. The archaeologists must now race to explore the part of the site that's still accessible. Yet, they'd already made an important find on that site, a find which is now being examined and treated in the research center's workshop. To the team's surprise, it turns out to be the marble statue of a Roman emperor. For 300 years, Alexandria held pride of place as the commercial and cultural capital of the Eastern Mediterranean. Then, the ancient kingdom fell into the hands of Rome's first emperor, Augustus. In 31 BC, he overthrew the Ptolemaic dynasty. Cleopatra took her own life, and the city of Alexandria was built over by its new conquerors. This magnificent Roman boulevard runs right over what was once a Ptolemaic residential area. Unlike the Greeks, the Romans took Egypt by brute force. There would be no more intermingling of cultures. Roman culture was ruthlessly imposed, and the once glittering metropolis became a dowdy province of the new empire. Agnodike has abandoned all hope of fulfilling her dream. She's decided to return home to Athens. But fate, or her talisman, intervenes. At the Pharaohs' lighthouse, some of the construction scaffolding has collapsed, injuring many, including Agnodike's uncle Kratos. Her ability to think under pressure and her grasp of basic medical procedures are evident. Legend has it, Agnodike was granted permission to pursue her studies in Alexandria. The first woman to study medicine openly. When her studies were over, she returned to Athens and spent her life as a practicing physician. Alexander the Great never lived in the city which bears his name. 9 years after its founding, he was dead. It was the Ptolemies who brought his dream of a royal city to life and founded a dynasty which would go down in history for its administrative planning and technical abilities. But perhaps the Ptolemies' most luminous contribution to civilization was in fostering the life of the mind. For by welcoming and encouraging thinkers of all kinds, they left the Western world a legacy which shines to this day.